women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Black or white, all unite for women's rights. Black or white, all unite for women's rights. Join together, free our mind. No one will be victimized. Join together, free our mind. No one will be victimized. Join together, free our mind. No one will be victimized. Join together, free our mind. No one will be victimized.
I want to invite Roger from the Gay Liberation Network to come and speak with us. Again, we want to talk about why queering space, why putting our bodies out here, putting them together, getting together in the streets, why this is so important. The struggle for gay liberation, the struggle for queer liberation, the struggle for trans liberation, for our liberation is all connected. It's all connected. And so Roger is going to share a couple of words for us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here to speak. I may be the oldest person among you today. I'm 2 months away from turning 70. So the question arises, you know, what does an old man really have to say to folks, many of whom are a third his age? And it's a valid question. It's a good question, because older people, and not just 70-year-olds, but people 50 and even 40, have kind of a, you know, they have a story to tell. They have their own narratives, especially men, and they look for an audience to tell their stories to. But many of the older folks that I know of, that I grew up knowing, have a kind of amnesia that overcomes them. And they forget the confusions they grew up with. They forget the struggles that they had. And they sanitize their stories, their narratives. And what they actually end up doing is leaching out the humanity from their stories. They make their stories dead and boring. Now, several weeks ago, I had the good fortune to attend a rally at Michigan in Congress, where a line of women, some of whom were trans, lined up, and one after the other, they stood up here as I'm standing today, and they told their story. Each one. It was riveting. It was extraordinarily moving. It was passionate. Deeply passionate. And it made me think that if I ever had a chance to stand up before an audience like this, I want to do the same thing. I don't want to forget. I don't want to be selective in my narrative. Now, I won't bore you with 70 years of detail, because I know we want to get marching. But I want to tell you this, that when I was 12, I snuck into the bedroom of my sister to dress up in her clothes. And I stood before the mirror and I made the, effeminate gesticulations and movements that I thought were what girls did But they didn't even do that in the 1950s, I'm sure. And then I masturbate. Now, the 1950s, when I was a boy, are very different from today. Although there are continuities. Those people across the street represent the continuities. But to be a boy's boy in the 1950s meant that you had a choice, that I was told in my school by my teachers to the boys, you can be Jello or you can be steel. It's your choice. And what red-blooded American boy in the 1950s, or probably even today, would choose Jello? Each of them would take steel. Steel. That's the image. And that was the choice. But our choice is not Jello or steel. Our choice is humanity or savagery. And the continuities that I spoke about and the very differences today compared to when I was a boy growing up in the 50s, who's responsible for that? Historical change just doesn't happen. People don't simply get tired of fads and change their fashions. They're made to change, and they're made to change by groups like this. Thousands of people like you marching in the streets, here in attendance on a beautiful day, not at the beach, but because you have a sense of responsibility to your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters, to all of us that are out there. Because when we march, think about it, in that crowd that watches us, there's a little 12-year-old boy who sneaks into his sister's bedroom and wears her clothes. And he feels conflicted and confused because he's told by his brothers and his uncles and his fathers, you gotta be a man. The choice is Jello or steel. But you tell him different. And that's what our march is about. It's about the folk choice between Jello and steel. We are neither. And having to choose, forcing young men to choose, to make that choice, to be steel, is destructive, not just of their relationships. It not only destroyed my first marriage, but crushed and crippled my second marriage as well. The ego ideal of being steel, being strong, denying my tenderness, my softness. This has poisoned my life. Don't let it poison yours. And one last thought as I listen to all these others today and a few weeks ago. Don't let anybody turn you around. Because your enemies, believe it or not, it's not those bozos over there, those clowns over there. Your enemies are the very people that love you. They are the people that tell you, oh, lower your voice. You're exaggerating.
You know, you're not. You need to get a life. Get off the streets. How many of you have been told that by mothers and fathers, and brothers and sisters? How many of you sit around the Thanksgiving dinner table and are told that by friends, others who have your well-meaning, but think you're wrong, think you need to get a life, which means get a man, right? Well, bullshit. It's all bullshit. They are expressing their discomfort. They're uncomfortable with you because you've lifted the social rock and shown what's underneath. You are right. Your voice is valid. And I'm proud to walk with you today.
For women's rights, gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights. Gay, straight, black or white, all unite for women's rights.